Hi, welcome to Mont Inspiration Podcast. Pump up the volume as we discuss our homeschooling journey, ideas, creativity, and any other topics that may come up. This podcast focuses on Montessori and the primary ages 3 through 6. You can also find me on Instagram at Montinspiration. Hi everyone, so welcome back to Mont Inspiration Podcast. I also have an Instagram called Mont Inspiration. So, hi again, my name is Rice, and today this is kind of a part 2 from last week's episode, which was interviewing my husband. So today I'm going to ask him just a few questions, and then he'll ask me one big question at the end. So
I'm back. I'm Aaron. I'm here again, and thanks for having me back on.
All right. So first question, what's been our favorite DIY project to include in our Montessori homeschooling?
Well, when I think about it, I think about, we've done, quite a few, but the two that stick out in my mind, we did a wormery not too long ago. The idea of a wormery, the word itself, I didn't know really what to make of it, and then you kind of explained it to me as like an ant farm but with worms, and that was kind of integrated in with the soil studies and lessons that you were doing at the time, layers of the soil, and it was really cool because it included a field trip too. We got to go to a worm farm. It was like an hour away, but it was worth it to get some worms. I don't know why. It's really hard to find worms in the desert. Yes. And it was cool because it was like this separate offshoot of like all that worms do, and I mean we wound up getting a couple of different worm books. Our child really likes those books too. Yeah. They're really fun.
Yeah, it was just so fun our child held worms in her hands for the first time.
Yeah.
So, and I held them in my hands for the first time in over 2 decades probably.
Held is a strong word. I think they touched your hand as you dropped them down into the ground or into our wormery.
Yeah, I was pretty grossed out. But it was so fun. It was so fun to actually get the hands-on part and see them for the first time, or actually watch our child see them for the first time, and have her experience what worms do, how do they help the soil, how do they help plants.
And she got to see it in action because the way we constructed it, I'm sure people can kind of look at some of your documentation out on your Instagram, but the way we did it with the glass, we could kind of look at them at night because they're nocturnal, they sleep during the day, and
yeah, they don't like the sun.
Right. So we could look at them at night with a flashlight and kind of peek in at them, and you just see them. I mean, it's like little worm highways this way and that way all over the glass walls, and it goes throughout, obviously, in the middle too. And it was just really cool to see them wiggling around in there.
Yeah, it was really, really cool. And we fed them some peas.
Yep, peas and some leaves from trees that had fallen off in the yard.
Yeah.
And we planted some bean seeds in them, and they sprouted up really tall, and that was cool too.
Yeah, so we made 2 wormeries. So we had 2 extra glasses. I don't know how big they are, but they're the tall jars from IKEA.
Right.
And we weren't using them. They were just sitting in our closet, so we just decided to use those 2 glass jars to put our worms in. And then I ended up just throwing 3 to 4 bean seeds in each jar just for kicks, just to see what would happen, because we put them in our kitchen cabinet.
Yeah.
And lo and behold, I think it was 5 to 7 days or something like that. They sprouted so fast, and they got so tall without any sun. That was what was
That was the crazy part.
The coolest
is they're
part.
sitting there in the dark in a cabinet, And
Yeah.
I mean, they were 2 feet tall.
Yep. So sorry to any gardeners that were like completely boring out right now, but we never really gardened ever.
Yeah.
So this is all very, very brand new and exciting for us.
Yeah. So, yes, that was one of my favorite DIY little projects or side lessons that we did. And the other one that stands out to me is when we did kind of like a little model volcano of felt and parts of it. It kind of shows the layers and down into, like magma chamber, and our child knows all the different parts of the volcano, and it was part of that was her learning all the different parts, and part of it was me putting it together and having fun doing that, because it's like, wow, this is going to be something that's going to get used, and this is going to be something that is going to be enjoyed, and she's going to get a lot out of it. So I took it like, oh, let me do this, and it was exciting for me to, I don't know, I guess, be a part of that and put that in, and that's what I like personally is
and that's what I like too about like our family being involved in homeschooling, is that you get to be a part of it too, even if it's just little bits and pieces here and there that you get to do. But yeah, that was fun. I think that weekend we learned for 2 or 3 days in a row. Our child just soaked up everything about volcanoes, like read books. You made the parts of a volcano felt, which in the end that's like one of my must-have DIY materials is felt. Like you can do anything with felt. You can, instead of buying an expensive puzzle, you save money if you just make something with felt. Yeah. So that's what I got out of the whole that was like our first felt project. So
yeah.
It was fun. It was fun.
That was a good
child.
one. I like that.
But anyway, next question. So what do you think is the most fun material or topic that we have all learned together? Because us parents are learning with our child, because obviously we don't remember everything from our elementary education or even our high school education. So what do you think is your most fun material or topic that we've learned together?
Well, when we went over the layers of the soil, and part of what made it so fun for me is when you were discussing with me the idea of introducing it. We were both a little bit apprehensive, kind of hesitant, like, I don't know. Do you think this is going to be boring? Do you think this is really going to like take off? Is there enough here to be interested in for a week plus? And oh my gosh, it was, I don't know how long we spent on soil, but it was like
a really long time.
It was
like 4 weeks straight or 5 weeks or whatever.
Yeah. And we were coming out of kind of like layers of the earth and like talking about like volcanoes, and so we were kind of in the backs of our minds, we were kind of comparing like, is this going to be as fun as that? And partly because we didn't know anything about it, it was. We dove into all the layers, and then I mean it led to the wormery, it led to just being able to kind of look at the different puzzles that come with it. And so I bought this layers of soil puzzle from Allison's Montessori, and then we later got the life in the soil puzzle. So it was nice to just see everything from the bottom up, from the bottom layer, bedrock, and then you go all the way up to the top soil, and then obviously you're in the organic matter area, which is like dead plants or dead animals. And then we learned about the life in the soil, like how deep the animals can go into the soil. And then we learned about the earthworms, like how deep they go into the soil, and how everything just is connected, like how
all of these things help plants grow and help the soil be healthy. And for me as a parent, what I got out of that is just to not pour tons of chemicals into the ground, because the soil it's basically eating everything up. So whatever we feed the soil is how healthy the soil is going to be. But we even went out on a hike and we picked up some soil in the middle of the desert.
Yeah.
It's obviously not very exciting when you're picking up
I mean, it's
soil.
not the same as like, someone that may live in the, forest or mountainous area or just the desert. A more diverse area. Yeah.
Not in a dry climate.
Yeah, but even with it being the desert, we brought home a jar full of the soil from the desert, and then we compared it to just dirt from kind of like the front yard. Right. And front yard landscaping is like, okay, they plant plants and things like but the soil itself, it was cool that you could see some of that layering that happened. And I guess we had to fill it with water so that things could settle over time. It took a couple of days.
Yep, the layers separate. We mashed up a rock with a hammer to see how... We were basically trying to explain to our child how do rocks break down? And they break down with water. So what's an easier way than hammering a rock? Then, what's an easier way for the rock to break down besides us hammering it right now? And that was part of the Washika Biomes curriculum. So we were doing all of these little lessons from Washika Biomes. Right. And I highly recommend Washika Biomes. I love Washika Biomes. I think we've learned so much from them. And then all the puzzles from Allison's Montessori. But anyway, that's getting off topic. So I'll just go ahead and ask the next question. Okay. Which material do you see as the most valuable? So what material do you see as the most... has the most potential, I guess?
To any dads out there that are listening, or just parents that are just now starting into Montessori, this may be like, oh, but for those of you that have been doing Montessori, this will be like, well, duh. To me, it's the beads. Just taking, numbers and making them a concrete example for the child to kind of learn quantities. And, it eventually leads to addition,
other
subtraction,
things.
Just math in general. But counting and understanding numbers by using the beads, whoa. I mean... Yeah.
That could be just your personality, too. You might
maybe it is
math
my personality.
A little more than language.
Yeah, that probably has something to do with it. And it could be, maybe it's just our child's personality, too. Yeah. True, because that's what I've seen, at least in our household, as this is what gets used the most. This is what, has made the biggest difference, all of those different aspects.
Yeah, I think you're right. Definitely. Yep. Yeah. I think beads, at least for our child, every child's different, but at least for ours, I think they've had like the biggest impact, because I think our child wanted to learn more math lessons than language lessons.
At least initially.
And that's okay.
Sure.
Yeah, that's okay. That's completely okay. It's all on our child's time.
Right. And that interest is kind of what, to me, makes it valuable. Is, okay, this is what's valuable to my kid. That makes it valuable to me, too, as a parent.
Okay.
Okay, so I guess that's probably kind of enough feedback out of me, but I think the audience and probably a lot of your followers on Instagram and just the community in general would probably want to get some of your particular kind of insights on maybe the best must-haves or your favorite materials that you use in the day-to-day kind of teaching and homeschool life with our child. And fire away. Let's kind of get into that.
Okay. So I kind of have a long list, so I'll try to keep it short and sweet. So basically, every Montessori material is going to help your child with their concentration, coordination, help them develop some type of independence when they're working through these materials by themselves, work on their fine motor skills. And also, I've talked to you before how our child has learned new vocabulary.
Right.
It's helped us learn more language, new language.
Right.
And then also overall it helps with problem solving skills. The materials help with problem solving skills.
Yeah, they all kind of build off of each other too, toward whatever else is going on.
Mm-hmm. And the two parts that I like out of that list is basically it's helped our child's concentration, because when we first started off, it was sort of difficult. Like our child was moving to this spot and this spot of the room.
Like a pinball machine.
Yep. So she's learned to develop more patience, or having more fun and focusing on the material that she's on at the moment.
Right.
And
seeing
then,
it through.
Yeah, and then the fine motor skills and the new vocabulary, I think, is my favorite part out of all of those aspects. But anyway, so I'll start with the first thing. My must-haves, my number one must-have is manuals. So you remember what my life was like?
Yes.
Before
pre-manual versus post-manual, two very different levels of stress and just, enjoyment of it.
Right. It wasn't really that fun when I was trying to find things for free on this website and that website and through this person and that person. So once I finally got my hands on a few Montessori manuals, life was just easier.
Yeah.
But I use Montessori RD. Their manuals basically give you step-by-step instructions on how to teach your child to use each material. So that's what I like about them. They're very specific. They provide the ages, the appropriate ages for each material. They're just really helpful, and they have a lot more activities that you can download from their website. And then my second go-to would be the Montessori Tube Academy. So I basically supplement from them because they have all of the modules, and they give a weekly guide, a list of things that you can go through with your child. So that way you don't have to do any planning. You just go by what they give you. And then they also have videos that you can watch. So that way you know how to teach your child to use the material. And that's the part that I like, is the video, because I'm a visual person. So
gives you an example to follow that much easier. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
And the Montessori RD manuals don't have the video, but I not 100% sure, but they put something new up on their website that's basically online. Everything is online. They have the manuals online. I think they might have videos up too, but I'm not sure because I haven't checked it out yet. And then the third curriculum that we use is Washika Biomes. And we use that for all of our earth science topics. So they basically go from biggest to smallest. So, I mean, they start with...
When you say biggest, you're not talking like elephant big. You're talking...
like the galaxy.
Yes.
They start from the galaxy and then go down in the solar system, then our planet, all the way down to the child. So that's what I like about them. We actually didn't are not doing
not really
our
doing it
studies
in order necessarily.
the way
Sure.
that they have it in order, because I didn't know that before I started. So we're basically starting from the very center of the earth.
Right. Once again, we're rookies.
Yes. And I want to say again that we are Montessori beginners. I'm not a teacher. We're both learning this as we go. And we're just wanting to share our experience in
Sure.
hopes of encouraging other homeschooling families.
And is it fair to say that those manuals and curriculums, I mean, that's what works for us, what we've adopted and we use, but maybe different for somebody else?
Right.
Just feel like it's important to have some type of streamlined, this is what you follow, have some type of manual.
Yeah, I would definitely get a guide.
Yeah.
For sure, because it was stressful for me not knowing what age do we start the binomial cube, what age do we start the movable alphabet. So I think that having a guide or a manual definitely decreases your stress as a parent and a teacher.
For sure.
Especially when you're new.
Yeah.
The second thing, a close second, would be all of the Montessori beads, the math beads, if that's what you want to call them. But we started with the bead stair, which is basically numbers, learning quantity 1 through 9. And that's where we started with from the very beginning, and I didn't really know what I was doing back then.
Yeah.
Because that was before we got a manual.
Right.
And whenever I first introduce a new material to our child, I kind of just let our kid explore with each material first.
Right.
So when I put out the bead stair, our child was already naturally like going toward it. Like she noticed there are different colors. Like 1 is red and 9 is dark blue. She noticed right away the different colors and then the different lengths. So I think it was just nice to have our child explore, or if you want to call it play, then call it play. But I thought it was an effective way to get our child to be more curious about all the different materials. To just basically put the new material out in front of them and then let them explore with it.
And our child, or I guess probably most children, maybe not all, but our child at least enjoys just categorizing, sorting, and that could be biggest to smallest or tallest to shortest, or categorizing by colors. And the beads were kind of the perfect avenue to have that kind of go toward. It came naturally, just in the introduction, without knowing what's going on with them, just like, oh, what are these? Kind of went right after it.
Yeah. But beads. So we started off with the bead stair, and then you learn 1 through 9, and then you learn your teen numbers, and then you move into learning about counting by tens, and that would lead you into the golden bead set. And then eventually you will get the complete bead set, which includes short and long bead chains, the squares, and the cubes. But right after we got the bead stair, I saw the Checkerboard Bead Set on Amazon. So I had bought that because that included 20 of each colored bead bar for the numbers 1 through 9. But anyway, beads have been a huge favorite.
Right.
Our child's enjoyed like making long snakes out of them, or worms, or just really long lines, and counting how long she can make it.
Yeah.
But yeah, the beads are amazing. You not only do you learn quantity, you learn how to add and subtract, and then eventually multiply and then divide. They just grow.
Yeah, it just goes
your
and goes
child.
and goes. Yeah. Yeah, there's not an expiration date on when this is a usable material.
And it's my favorite because it's a concrete way of learning math, because
Right.
we didn't have that when we were young.
No, we both probably went through the memorization of just seeing the number written on a chalkboard, blackboard. I don't know if people still use those, but that's probably where a lot of us started, is just identifying, okay, that's 1, that's 2. And there was no concrete application. We didn't feel the quantity in our hand.
Well, we might have with the counting bears or something, but it wasn't as organized as the Montessori beads.
Sure, yeah.
Plus, that was a really, really long
Let's
time
not date
ago.
ourselves too much here, but yes, that was decades ago.
Another must-have would be sandpaper, numerals, and letters. So these have been a favorite because they prep for writing and reading. And our child has learned to use their fine motor skills when tracing the sandpaper. I think it's also helped with memory of learning memory skills, because you first, you take the sandpaper letters out, the child will trace it, and it helps them to remember the letter sound.
Yeah.
I guess that's part of the reading process, but I think...
Well, adding the sense of touch to it, I mean, I'm not like a brain cognition expert, but I would imagine it makes, just it just ingrains it that much more in the child when they're actually feeling it as they go, and that's one more thing to trigger their memory moving forward on remembering that letter or shape or number.
Yep, exactly. So and there's just so many different activities that you can do with the sandpaper letters. Not only do you learn letter sounds, but you can say, once your child starts to blend the different letters together, at the end, when we got to that part, I would say, I have a word in my mind, and that word is mat. And then our child would spell it out using the sandpaper letters. There's just so many different things that you can do with sandpaper letters. And then using an eye cover or a blindfold to trace them, that was another fun activity. Turning the sandpaper letters over and playing knock knock.
Yeah,
that was I think was
yeah.
the most favorite.
Yeah.
But yeah, we've just done so many different things with the sandpaper letters and numerals, and I have a few videos up on my Instagram too.
And I just from the dad side here too, the sandpaper letters strike me as I am what you might call semi-handy, but if you're handy, these are like definitely DIY eligible. This is something we wound up purchasing ours, but these are something you could probably pull off on your own.
Oh yeah. Yep, definitely. Another must-have in our home are the Novelist Cylinders. And if you want to call them the colored cylinders, you can. But they come in 4 different colors, red, yellow, green, blue. But they have been a huge favorite to our child. They help with visual discrimination of size. And not only just that part, but also the language. Learning new language with them, like learning the words thin, thinner, thinnest.
You mentioned vocabulary earlier. And
Yep.
This is one of those materials that does that.
Yep. Thicker, thickest, or wider, widest. Shortest, tallest. Same surface area. We learned about that, which is basically the same width. Yeah, but our child has just had so much fun exploring the different heights, widths. She would stack them vertically and see
which color was the tallest when they're all stacked.
Which one is the tallest. So you definitely can arrange them from thickest to thinnest horizontally on the floor, or you can stack them. But they've just been a really great.
Well, these were a big hit, again, before you got into kind of a structured lesson about it. Just in the introduction of like, hey, look at these. And then it just turned into, the curiosity took over.
Yep, I remember putting these 4 boxes out and saying, this is new. This is a new material. They are called the Novelist Cylinders. And I just opened up the box, and our child was immediately attracted. Because at that time, we had learned a little bit about the geometric solids before I put out the Novelist Cylinders. So she kind of related cylinder, and then there's, all these different colored cylinders. So I think that's what made...
Yeah, it was like, okay, there's cylinder, but now there's how many cylinders? It was like, mind blown type moment.
So another favorite would be our Movable Alphabet. So the Movable Alphabet prepares our child for writing, spelling, and reading. So again, before my child knew every letter sound of the alphabet, we spent some time playing or exploring with the letters. So our child had fun making different figures like faces or people, or arranging them to look like a certain animal. Like, that was a lot of fun for our child to just simply have that curiosity about them without knowing every single thing about them, knowing all the terms or the names.
Sure.
But we've, ever since, the womb, we've been reading to our child. And then before we knew more about Montessori, we were reading alphabet books.
Yep.
And so the Movable Alphabet, what I like about it is that our child can actually hold the letters.
It brought the page to life.
Yeah,
it was cool. Like, oh my gosh, these are the letters that are in all the books.
Exactly. To hold the letters in your hand is just so cool, and I think we've had a lot of fun. I've had a lot of fun, even just writing out my own sentences with them, or my own words, or writing out my rhyming words before we started working on rhyming. I think it's cool because we watched kind of a lot of Winnie the Pooh, or we've read a lot of Winnie the Pooh, and how the letters fall off the page or they fall off of the paragraph. It's cool to actually hold the letters in your hand and kind of have that imagination with them.
It's almost like the child sees it as they can be part of the story, and I don't know, it's got to feel pretty awesome,
Yeah, that thought just came to my mind, Winnie the Pooh.
Yeah.
I know in the movie it shows the letters falling off, and in the book it will show, some pages will show the letters like...
Right, that they've piled at the bottom of the page,
Yeah, I think. But yeah, that thought just came to my mind just now. But anyway, the next thing would be puzzles. Puzzles.
And more puzzles.
Yes, I think our favorite puzzles have been dinosaur-themed, ocean-themed, or they're from Allison's Montessori. And puzzles will help, obviously, with problem-solving skills, the fine motor skills. But my favorite part out of using the puzzles that we've, explored is it helps our memory skills, not just for our child, but for us. Yeah. Well, for me, because, I'm usually working with our child. But, like, all the puzzles from Allison's Montessori, we started off with layers of earth. And that's helped our child learn the terms to the different, or the names to the different layers, just naturally. Yeah. Because I remember when we put the layers of earth puzzle out, she was putting it together like the first day, and then the second day already she was already asking, what is this called? What's this called?
It was very early on. It's like, after putting the puzzle together once or twice, it was immediately, what's this part called? What's this part called? What's this piece called? And you and I were both kind of like, well, I guess now we're going to go over the names of it too. We weren't sure if we're going to do it at first, but she wanted to, and then it also forced us to learn it.
I was like, whoa, I don't know if I'm ready for this right now. Now I have to remember all of the names too,
Right.
But we had that puzzle. We had the layers of soil, which surprisingly became a favorite. Just seeing the different shades of brown. That was cool to put together. Then we had life in the soil puzzle. And then now I'm waiting on our layers of ocean puzzle to come.
Yes.
So I'm excited about that because we're learning about the ocean right now. But yes, I think puzzles have definitely helped us remember all the terminology that we need to know.
Yeah, it's made a difference in the interest is there from the puzzle, and then the memory comes with it.
Next favorite or must-have would be 3-part cards. And I think everybody probably knows what 3-part cards are, but I can explain it. So you have a control card, which has a picture and the word on it. And then you have another card that has just only the picture. And then you have another card that only has the word on it. So those are the 3 different parts, 3-part cards.
Right.
And they have helped us with reading, vocabulary, visual discrimination, because you do a lot of matching. Has helped us with our memory skills again, like say you're learning about different life cycles, like the life cycle of a bee or the life cycle of a butterfly, or you could be learning about the different parts of a volcano.
Right. It can apply across the board.
Anything and everything. 3-part cards definitely have helped us learn how to even read words, like CVC words, because that's where we're at right now. It's just learning CVC words, or just anything, any topic.
Yeah, you can get on a roll with those because you print them out and you start putting them into the pockets of the holder, and I mean you can knock out 5, 6, 7 of them for a particular lesson, or prepare for a new lesson, and just have them ready to go. They're a nice go-to for sure. Yeah,
and you'll definitely want to just introduce 3 to 4 cards at a time.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's one of the first things that I have learned when I was trying to show how to use the 3-part cards, because in the beginning I was just taking them all out and expecting our child to know all of 7 cards or whatever, 5 cards, when I should have just been introducing 3 at a time.
Sure.
But anyway, now I'm trying to save the best for last.
Drum roll.
So I don't know, all of these are favorites.
They're all favorites, but this one stands out though for you, for sure.
Yeah, for I think me and our child, I think it's both of our favorite. And that would be the geometric solids. So there are 10 3-dimensional solid shapes that you learn, and they're all in blue, and I think that's because it allows the child to just focus on each individual shape.
Not worry about color, just what shapes are there.
Right, because if they were all different colors, it would be a little more distracting.
Right.
So when I first got these out, just like any other material, I let our child explore them first without knowing any of the names. So together we would trace the bases or any edges. We would feel the corners or points or any flat edges. We would look at which ones roll, which ones do not roll. We related each solid to different objects in our home. And then without even explaining it, our child naturally related these solids to things outside.
Yeah.
Like we would be driving and then, our child would say, look at that mountain, it's a cone, or...
Yeah, it happens at the playground too. There can be like a tunnel or something, and all of a sudden that's a cylinder. I think the obvious thing, maybe it's not obvious to me, it was, but the sphere is what started popping up everywhere. A sphere, whether it's the globe in our room or looking around, obviously, any kind of ball.
Right.
So it pops up a lot, but that was one of the first ones that was getting identified outside of the lesson itself.
So we had a lot of fun just relating the solids to what's around us.
Yep.
Because it's not just the solids that are right in front of you. It's, the cube can be a chair, or, a cylinder could be a soda can, or that berry jam that's sitting over there. It's relatable. And I don't know if kids who just have traditional schooling and they learn about these solids, I'm sure they probably learn to relate it too, but it's just been cool in our Montessori homeschooling that it's happening right now.
Right. And I think a lot of those relational, like identifying what shape is where in the world and in your environment, that does happen in traditional schooling. I mean, but I think that happens at a later age. And I think that's what you're getting at there, is this being introduced now. There's that light bulb that's going off with our child, just seeing these things and recognizing that the environment around her is made up of these shapes, basically.
And not just flat shapes.
Yeah, they have depth to them, and that's part of what you were talking about, holding them in your hand, feeling the corners, feeling the points, tracing the outlines of them. Yeah.
I think the whole sensorial area in the primary ages of 3 through 6 has been our favorite. And then I think it would be math that comes next, and then language.
Yeah.
Sorry, language, you're last,
Sure.
I think the sensorial, it just the child just gets to use all the senses.
Yeah.
But anyway, we also used a blindfold to feel each different solid and guess the right solid. We also played what's missing, so I would lay out 4 different solids, and then our child would close her eyes, and then I would take one solid away, and then she would have to guess which one was missing. What I like about these solids too is that it prepares the child for geometry and all of the geometric terms that will go along with it as our child gets older. So in the next classroom, ages 6 to 9. And it also has helped with, of course, visual discrimination. Big time, because I observed I think it was like 1 month, where our child just she lost interest in wanting to learn how to read. And we were having trouble blending sounds together. And I noticed she just wanted to go to the sensorial shelf and play with everything on there. Not play, but explore with everything on there. And was attracted to the solids for 2 weeks straight. So we worked on it. We worked on the solids for like 2 weeks straight. We did all of these activities like every single day, and we learned their names. And after 2 weeks or 2.5 weeks, I finally just decided to say, hey, would you like to work on the Pink series work. I didn't say it in that way, but we're using the Pink series to learn how to read. Mm-hmm. And then our child finally went back to the language section and found some type of flow to finally go through the Pink series. Right. It was just like not a huge change, but it was kind of
something sparked or clicked.
Yeah. Something clicked in the brain, and our child finally started to blend these sounds together. And I just thought that was the coolest thing, because it's the geometric solids. You think that it's only for learning geometry.
Right.
And then lo and behold, it's maybe the visual discrimination part that helped our child learn the different letters, because some of the letters are a little bit confusing, like B and D and P and Q. So it can, I don't know, I just thought it was the coolest thing. Maybe a real certified Montessori teacher can tell me if that's the way it's supposed to work, but that's what I observed during that one
and you're right,
experience.
Maybe it's different per child. I'm sure there's plenty of different, success stories and how that works, but that's how it happened here, and I mean, pretty cool stuff to see firsthand.
But that would be basically our must-haves, the end of our list. And I know I had said before that the sensorial materials, pretty much all of them, have been our favorite. I know there's other materials where, like the sound boxes or the sound cylinders, where the child will shake the cylinder, hear the sound, and then guess the right sound. It's hard to explain, but if you looked it up on Amazon or something, they're supposed to just...
Like identifying like a high or a low tone,
right,
and things like
right.
that. Yeah.
There's those sound cylinders that I didn't purchase just because we have these set of bells in our toy area. And so we did a lot of kind of like music play, and I would say, ring the high or ding the high bell, ding, and ding the low one, ding. So there was a lot of hearing with our instruments that we have on hand.
Yeah.
And then there's another sensorial material out there that's called the tasting bottles. And you just have a few droppers. The child tastes the different flavors. But I thought that I didn't get those because I thought that we did enough of that in the kitchen.
Well, can I have some? Maybe that's something that I might enjoy.
But yeah, I think sensorial has been a huge favorite in this primary age.
Yeah, for sure.
But I got a question on how I choose our materials. So basically, we are on a budget.
Yeah.
So I've used Amazon a lot. I've used the Elite Montessori brand and Adina Montessori brand off of Amazon. And then I've picked a couple of items off of Allison's Montessori. And I love Allison's Montessori. If, I would buy everything from their store because it's just such good quality.
Right.
And their puzzles have just been so much fun to put together.
And it's important to note too. I mean, everybody has a different budget, on what they're looking at. But I would again reiterate, hey, if you're handy, a lot of these can be DIY'd. And if you're not handy, I mean, think of it in the back of your head too. I mean, so many of these things you don't age out of. These are long-term investment pieces that will aid the child going forward, not just in the here and now.
Yes, exactly. But anyway, I think I'm going to end it here. If you have any questions, just let me know. You can leave a comment. I'm on... Our podcast is on what now? It's on YouTube, Spotify,
Apple Podcasts,
Amazon
Music.
Yes, Amazon Music.
Yes.
And then you can also DM me on Instagram. Okay, thank you again for listening to me ramble on and on. I hope I didn't bore you out too much. All right, until next time, everyone. Bye.